Native Americans in World War II in 1936, President Franklin D. Roosevelt said, "This generation has a rendezvous with destiny." At that time, he probably didn't know how right he would be. World War II made his words come true in a big way. Native Americans, who were part of that generation, were eager to join the military to help defend their country when the war started. No other ethnic group made a greater contribution to the war than Native Americans. They also experienced the biggest change in their status because of the war. Pre-war era Native Americans weren't called to fight in World War I because they weren't considered U.S. citizens until 1924. However, around 10,000 Native American men volunteered to serve in World War I. Between the two world wars, life on the Native American reservations was tough due to a lack of development and job opportunities. In 1939, the average income for Native American men living on reservations was $500. This was much lower than the national average of $2,300. Many Native Americans didn't get a formal education. Even for those who did finish high school, there were very few jobs available on the reservations. People who stayed on the reservations generally worked on the land and farmed. This was their main source of income. When America entered the war, Native nations joined in. In fact, the Iroquois Confederacy had already declared war on Germany back in 1917. They still hadn't made peace with Germany when World War II started. They were ready to fight when the war began. Other tribes were also eager to join the war effort. Some people were willing to wait for a long time in bad weather to sign their draft cards. They even showed up with their own guns. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, many Native Americans signed up to join the armed forces. Others went to work in factories that made things for the war. Here's the rewritten text. According to one survey from 1942, 40 of Native Americans enlisted voluntarily, and then many were drafted into the Army. Many women also contributed to the war effort by serving in the Women's Army Corps, the Women's Volunteer Emergency Service, and the Army Nurse Corps. On the day Pearl Harbor was attacked, about 5,000 Native Americans were already serving in the military. This number quickly grew to over 44,000 by the time the war ended. This made up more than 10% of the Native American population during the war. There was a reason for the German government's concern when it came to Native Americans. During World War I, the Choctaw Code Talkers had been able to confuse the Germans with their language. As a result, the German government was worried that the same thing would happen again in this war. In the 1930s, Nazi agents who were pretending to be anthropologists and writers went to Native American reservations to try and learn some of the native languages. The German government also tried to befriend some Native American tribes by linking the swastika to a similar Native American symbol. In fact, the Third Reich's propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels, went so far as to call the Lakota Sioux Aryans. The Nazi attempt to recruit Native people to their side ended up backfiring. Many Native people joined the fight against the Axis powers, possibly because they felt tricked. They called Hitler and Mussolini names, like Stinky Mustache and Chinless Wonder. Native Americans saw the Axis powers as a threat to their freedom. The Chippewa and Lakota Sioux joined the Iroquois and declared war on the Axis. Some Native Americans learned to read, and those who didn't speak English learned the language so they could join the military. The military even set up special English training courses on the reservations. The war created a situation where both Native Americans, whites, and other Americans had to work together to defend their country. This helped break down racial barriers in the armed forces and changed how American society thought. It also contributed to the civil rights movement after the war. The purchase of treasury stamps and war bonds by Native people reached 50 million by 1944. Many things from Native reservations were used by the military like oil, gas, lead, zinc, copper, and coal. It's interesting that the Manhattan Project got helium from the Navajo reservation to make the atomic bombs. The Army recruited Native Americans again to be code talkers because their languages were unique. The tribes that helped were Acoma, Apache, Assiniboine, Cree Cherokee, Chippewa, Choctaw, Comanche, Crow, Hopi, Ho-Chunk, Kiowa, Laguna, Menominee, Meskwaki, Mohawk, Muskogee, Creek, Navajo, Oneida, Pawnee, Pima, Ponca, Seminole, Sioux, Lakota and Dakota, and Tlingit. The Army and Marine Corps sent a group of 24 Navajo Code Talkers to the Pacific Theater, where they fought in many tough battles on islands. In North Africa, 8 soldiers from the Meskwaki tribe worked as code talkers in the 168th Infantry Regiment, 34th Division. In Europe, the 4th Signal Company of the 4th Infantry Division had 17 Native American soldiers who were experts in coding messages. From the time of the D-Day invasion of Normandy in June 1944 to when Paris was freed and the big battle in the snow was fought, these soldiers kept the communication lines safe. The enemy couldn't decipher their secret messages. In military training, Native Americans were good shots and fighters with bayonets, and they could go without water and food for longer than the average soldier. They also had a strong sense of what was happening around them, could keep going for a long time, and were very agile. Other soldiers looked up to Native American soldiers because of their brave reputation. When they were in action, Native American soldiers carried special objects like feathers, sacred bundles, and sweet grass as their own protection. These objects were made pure through special Native American rituals. Many Native soldiers counted coup every time they killed their enemy soldiers. Just like their ancestors marked a line on their coup sticks, modern Native soldiers drew a line on their rifles and bayonets. Native American soldiers first saw action in the Pacific War. 300 of them, including a descendant of the famous Apache chief Geronimo, helped defend Bataan and Corregidor in 1942. Over 2,000 soldiers from Oklahoma and New Mexico fought in the 45th Infantry Division, which fought in Italy and Central Europe. Natives also served in the 4th and 88th Division, the 19th and the 180th Infantry Regiments, the 147th Artillery Regiment, and the Oklahoma National Guard units. In short, Native American soldiers fought throughout the entire war, from the attack on Pearl Harbor to the surrender of Japan in 1945. The Navajo and Hopi were sent to serve in the Pacific. The Comanches fought the Germans in Europe, and the Meskwakis fought them in North Africa. Soldiers from other tribes fought in many places around the world, including Europe, the Pacific, North Africa, and elsewhere. For their service, they received many awards, including at least 71 Air Medals, 34 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 51 Silver Stars, 47 Bronze Stars, and 5 Medals of Honor. Life after the war for Native Americans, World War II was a major change from the past. Many of them were able to earn a decent living for the first time in their lives. The native annual income after the war went up to $2,500. The war and its aftermath brought new job opportunities, so some natives moved to big cities, while others stayed on the reservations. On the positive side, they had access to better jobs, education, healthcare, and a higher standard of living. However, there were also negative effects, such as the decline of tribal influence and the threat of losing their reservation land. In the end, Native American people learned that they could live in two different worlds.